Kinda stopped breathing for a second.
For a while now, Tammy Slaton has been doing really great. She's been eating healthy, losing weight, and overall making good choices for herself. It's been really amazing to watch her thrive like this. But now, it looks like she might be getting back to some of her old harmful habits. One doctor believes that we have a reason to be concerned that her food addiction might be about to relapse, and you guys will never believe why. Tammy's progress has been incredible to watch. She's lost about 300 pounds over the past year, and she's been doing things I never thought she would achieve. I mean, recently, she was even seen walking on her own. And let's not forget what a massive milestone it was when she was finally qualified for her weight loss surgery. Sadly, it now looks like the surgery might be causing her some issues, but there's more. The US Sun recently talked to licensed psychologist Dr. Rachel Goldman, PhD, and what Rachel had to say was very concerning. She suggested that we might be watching Tammy's food addiction relapse, which is obviously awful. I really don't want that to happen. Tammy has been doing amazingly, but I do see where the doctor is coming from. For one, about a month ago, in April, some really worrying photos of Tammy came out. Tammy was seen holding a McDonald's bag, which is obviously not great, especially since this was only about a month after she left rehab. This really made people worried that she might be about to relapse, but there was more. She was also seen inhaling some substances and shopping for Twinkies and chips at Walmart. All of this doesn't exactly sound like someone who's definitely not about to relapse. And now, with what Dr. Rachel Goldman has said, well, I'm honestly just really worried for Tammy. The doctor said that while Tammy's surgery is considered a treatment for obesity, it's not a cure. And according to her, obesity is a disease that Tammy will need to manage for the rest of her life. These are things that are important to keep in mind. Tammy needs to remember that just because she's out of rehab and has had her surgery doesn't mean that the battle is over. The doctor said that Tammy shouldn't wait. She should get help and support as soon as possible. This really is a dangerous and tricky situation that she's in. Tammy needs to be very careful because it's actually pretty common for patients to regain the weight they'd lost, which would be heartbreaking if that happened to Tammy. The doctor said that Tammy should really go back to the place where she had her surgery and follow up with the team. Apparently, most programs have support groups, and there should also be a behavioral health provider who could help her with all this. It's important that Tammy has a plan and sticks to it, and I'm not really sure if she has one right now. I mean, she mostly seems to be doing great and losing weight, but if she's picked up some of her old habits, this could soon change. The doctor also mentioned that there's another thing that Tammy could potentially be dealing with, and this one sounded pretty scary. Apparently, there's a thing called dumping syndrome that Tammy could have, and it doesn't sound pleasant at all. Tammy could suffer from this if she eats high-fat or high-sugar foods. This is what the doctor had to say. While only some people get this, it's where you can suffer flu-like symptoms after eating these food types. People need a lot of support after surgery, and for this reason. According to the psychologist who actually specializes in obesity and weight management, people with dumping syndrome can experience anything from vomiting and diarrhea to sweating and dizziness. This happens when the food dumps too quickly into the small intestine. When it's not digested properly, these symptoms can develop. It honestly sounds terrible, but what's most worrying about this is that according to the specialist, this could happen if Tammy eats those unhealthy foods that she presumably had in April. We saw her with the McDonald's bag, so she most likely had at least some high-fat food. I just hope that she's okay, and that she doesn't actually suffer from this. I mean, the doctor did say that not everyone has this, so I hope that Tammy doesn't have it, but if she does, I hope she's able to avoid these kinds of foods completely. Dr. Rachel also talked about the fact that the surgery that Tammy had is different from other surgeries. Most surgeries have a specific recovery time. After that, people can usually return to the life they had before surgery, but the weight loss surgery or bariatric surgery that Tammy had doesn't really work like that. There is no recovery time after which everything goes back to normal. You can't really go back to normal at all. This type of thing really requires a lifelong commitment and a complete lifestyle change. Tammy can't just work on herself for a little while and then go back to eating fast food. That's just not how this works, which is why it's so concerning to see her pick up some of her old habits. According to Dr. Rachel, what Tammy should be focusing on is exercise and an active lifestyle. Apparently, that's what really makes a change and what helps in the long term. But this kind of thing is also the reason why the doctor thinks that it's important for Tammy to talk to a specialist. Reportedly, most people who have this surgery lose about 50% of their excess weight, but this doesn't happen immediately. It takes time, and you do have to work on it. And you have to keep working on it even after that weight's gone. To do all this successfully, it's good to have a long-term plan and a set of goals, which is why Tammy should probably talk to someone if she doesn't have these things already. Another thing that Dr. Rachel said that I found very interesting is that usually, patients need to get a pre-surgical psychological evaluation done. This is apparently so that specialists can figure out the patient's psychiatric history and health and eating behaviors. Most patients have to go through this, which probably applies to Tammy too. This is what the doctor said. They would have looked at Tammy's motivation and readiness for surgery. They would look at her current stressors and coping mechanisms, as well as potential difficulties that may arise months after surgery. That's pretty interesting information, and it makes me think that maybe Tammy does have a more long-term plan, although it's hard to say if she's sticking to it. Dr. Rachel said that Tammy most likely got some recommendations and some extra help and support after the surgery, which is great, but I wonder if she still has access to that support. She had the procedure in the summer of 2022, which was a while ago. After that, she stayed in rehab, but now she's pretty much on her own, and I wonder if that means that she doesn't have any of that extra professional help anymore. I kind of agree with the doctor that she should maybe go talk to a specialist. I mean, it probably wouldn't hurt, and it might really help her stay on track, which at this point is probably the most important thing for her health. She's been doing great, and I just want her to keep at it. I really don't want her to relapse and go back to where she was. That was a life-threatening situation for her, and she's worked too hard to give up now. I just hope that those photos of her buying unhealthy food were a one-off, and that she's still keeping healthy. But what do you guys think? Are you worried that Tammy might be about to relapse? Do you think she should talk to a specialist? Let me know in the comments below.